Alrighty, so I have a bit of a career story that I want to share with you, and I hope that you can draw some lessons from it. My name is Lisa Appia. I'm the founder of We Apply, and I'm a certified career and resume strategist. And this is the story of how I didn't get the job because of a bad reference. So this happened a few years ago. I was applying for a promotion, and in the kind of industry that I'm in, you apply to get promoted. And basically, I filled out the very long application process. I was successful in that first stage. I then did a very long written assessment. I was successful in that stage. And then I did a formal interview. After the formal interview, I also did another interview with the hiring manager to see that whether it was a good fit for their team. So I had already gone through all the stages, and this was like over a couple of months. So already invested all this time to get to the final stage, which is basically the reference stage. And to me, especially at that time, I was like, yeah, sure, I have great references. I'm doing my work, I'm producing results, I'm achieving all that is required, and I was going above and beyond. So I never even considered the fact that I could get a bad reference. So I provided the references. They wanted one reference from my current manager, and then they wanted two references from people I had worked with previously. So I gave all the references, and then I was eliminated from the process. And to me, it was extremely odd because I simply just didn't understand how I had already gone like 95% of the way. It was basically my job. And then now I'm being told that I didn't get it. And so I did have the opportunity to reach out to the people in HR. And thankfully, one of them responded to me, and they told me that the reason I didn't get the role was because of a bad reference. And it took me days to be able to even understand what that meant. Like, how did I get a bad reference? So I decided, okay, I spoke to all my references before I provided their names. Everybody said they were okay with it. Everybody said that it was fine. They would provide me with a reference and speak to the work that I did. And so I spoke to all three references, and then my current manager at that time told me that, you know what, yes, when I spoke to you, I was really excited for you, and I wanted to provide you with the reference. But once they contacted me for the reference, I realized that maybe that wasn't the role that was best suited for you. Maybe that you should take more time in this role and, get more skills before you seek that promotion. And so to me, this was basically sabotage because we, already had a conversation. You told me you were going to provide me with the reference. And to make that decision all of a sudden, after, we had a conversation about it, to me was completely wrong. And at the time, there were other coworkers that I had a good working relationship with. So I asked them, like, what do you think? Is this something that a hiring manager or that your immediate manager can do? Like, is this common practice? And everyone was in disbelief. And so in having that conversation with her, she basically told me that the statement that she made that really made me understand that this was personal is that she said that you're not ready to be at the same level that I am. And so when that statement was made, I really understood that it was personal. It wasn't about the work that I do. It wasn't about how I would perform in the next role. It was just about the fact that she didn't think that I had what it took to be able to be in the same position as her. So it was extremely devastating. I am not even going to lie about it. I was pissed. I was extremely pissed off. And I was just like, this is completely wrong. And, I was doing all my research to see how can I file a complaint? What can I do? After a while, I was just able to process it and just say, you know what, it's okay. I know that I can work at that level. I know that I am deserving of that promotion. Even though I didn't get it this time, I'm going to keep doing what I do. I'm going to keep working with her without any challenges, and I am going to apply for the next opportunity that comes up for a similar promotion. And that's exactly what I did. I continued working with her professionally. I never brought it up again, and within a few weeks there was another opportunity that came up. This time was in a different department for a role at the next level, and so I applied. I didn't tell anyone I was applying. When the time came for references, I did not ask her for a reference, and I was able to get that role. I was able to get that promotion and that step up, and that was about 6 months after that incident. And so I learned some things from that experience that I want to share with you now. The first thing when you're choosing your professional references for a role is you want to make sure that you're choosing people that you can trust. Trust is very important. You don't want someone who can just change their mind midway or as they're having the conversation, and who isn't going to speak the best of you and highlight the skills and qualifications that you have to offer. And so make sure that you're selecting people you can trust. The second lesson that I learned is that you want to make sure that your references know you well. And looking back, I had only worked with that manager for a few months. Even though we had worked on certain projects together, they didn't necessarily know me very well. And so you want to make sure that someone who is being provided as your reference knows you well, and that they can truly speak to who you are as a person and who you are as a professional. And so ensuring that they know you well and they know the value that you have to offer well is very important. You want to make sure that you're choosing someone that's not only looking at you right now and what you're doing in this current role, but who's seeing where you're going and who has an understanding of what you can do if further opportunities or further responsibilities were provided to you. And the last thing, and this is, I guess, very general, but always give your references a heads up. I did provide this person with a heads up in this story in particular, but what I mean is, like, don't only tell the person I'd like you to provide a reference for me. Give them the details of what the role is. At the time when I gave her the heads up, I didn't tell her that it was a promotion. I didn't tell her what level it was. So maybe if she had known ahead of time and that issue that she had with me being at the same level as her, maybe it would have come up earlier and she would have, decided not to provide the reference, or I would have changed my mind based on the interaction and not provided her as the reference. So be very specific when you are giving your reference a heads up, not just, hey, I have this opportunity coming up, I would love for you to be my reference. You want to go deeper. Let them know what the role is. Be specific about the details of what the responsibility is going to be. If you have the job description readily available, it is something that you can share with them. And even something that I've done and that I encourage my clients to do all the time is actually have a conversation with your references and ask them basically what they're going to say. And so that will allow you to know what is going to be said about you and ensure that it is consistent with who you are and what you have to offer. The whole concept of providing professional references, there's so many debates about it right now, whether it's necessary or not, and what value does it really add, because people always ensure that the references will say something positive about them. At the end of the day, it's still something that is common practice to a lot of organizations, so you want to make sure that you are taking full control of that portion of your job search, or whether you're seeking a promotion, that you have full control of who you're selecting and what they're going to say about you, because you don't want a situation where you've done everything right and you've put so much effort into your job search, you've put so much effort into getting this promotion, and at the last moment someone does something to sabotage your opportunity. So I hope you learned something from my career story, and I hope it's going to help you in the future when you're selecting references for various opportunities. Take care.